What is going on? Welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm Cash, and today we're episode 127, recapping a huge weekend in combat sports. We had 9 total events across boxing and MMA. I watched all of them somehow, and we're going to talk about them. Of course, we're going to start with Shakur Stevenson completely dominating Teofimo Lopez in their Madison Square Garden main event. That was insane. I expected Shakur to win a pretty wide decision. I did not expect it to look like that. And then we're going to talk about Alexander Volkanovski, essentially having a repeat of pretty much the same kind of fight they had with Diego Lopez the first time around, except this time I felt like it was more dominant and less exciting. But he retains the belt and just reinforces that entire title fight was stupid. Xander Zayas is a unified champion now. Josh Kelly beat Murtazaliev. Second Zuffa event, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Let's start with the Ring 6. Shakur Stevenson, oh my goodness, I've always thought, Shakur has an insanely high ceiling. He's going to go down as having a tremendous boxing career. And I thought he was going to beat Teofimo Lopez, pretty confidently. I was, 90% confident he won that fight. And I expected the fight to be, around a 116, 112, 117, 111. It was 119, 109. All across all 3 judges' scorecards, that's how I had it scored. Some people had it 120, 108. I don't think there's any way you can give Teo more than 1 round in that fight. I mean, it was complete domination from Shakur since round 1. Round 1, you can immediately just tell the difference. Wow. He just had his number. And Teo's game plan and style was just tailor-made for Shakur. And he just had no way to get around him. Shakur is insanely hard to hit. He just is. And Teofimo coming forward and trying to do that. Shakur was just dodging every single punch and tapping him up. I mean, I think Shakur had 44% connect rate. Teo had 17 maybe. It was insane. You just look at their faces after. I know that's not the right way to judge a fight, but it was insane. Shakur moving up in weight to the best guy in that weight class, who was beating Lomachenko, he's beating Josh Taylor. Teofimo was a top 15, top 20 pound-for-pound fighter. This was Shakur's first fight, against another elite opponent, and he did him worse than he did William Zepeda or even Josh Padley, which is crazy. I was just blown away by how dominant he was. And I feel like Shakur, this was truly his coming out party. This is his first pay-per-view main event. And now it feels like he's ready to become a superstar. I think that he is. Everybody talks about that picture of, Mayweather, then Ward, then Crawford, and now Shakur. And I really do think that Shakur is going to be that next American boxing. I don't know if I would say superstar, because I don't know if any of those guys are superstars in the way that Floyd was. But generational great. And just being retiring undefeated. Nobody can touch them. That's kind of what I feel like. And I know it's early. And Shakur's career, he's 28, I think. To say that he's going to retire undefeated, we don't know that. But right now, it's looking like he's got everyone's number. Nobody can touch him. So, yeah, I was just completely blown away by it. I was thoroughly impressed. I know it was kind of boring, I guess some people say. But when you're watching a technician of that level and just seeing him completely pick apart someone so good was insane. And as for what's next for both, the most obvious thing I can say is Teofimo Lopez needs to get rid of his dad in the corner. Because that was some of the worst corner advice I've ever seen, just telling him, what are you doing, bro? What happened to your power? Go, hit him, win the fight. It's okay, tell me what to do. Don't tell me how to, you're telling me what to do then. How do I get there? And I don't know, it was just very frustrating. And him telling Teo, you're going to hate yourself tomorrow. I don't know if he was trying to motivate him or something, but it clearly wasn't working. And seeing Teofimo Lopez after and just seeing how broken he was, I really did feel bad for him. He's a guy with a huge ego, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing. That's a good thing in this sport. But to see it shatter like that, not even have any logical explanation, just saying, I just couldn't do anything against him. And look, it's okay. You're just not as good, So I feel bad for Teo. He says he's going to move it to welterweight next. I don't think that's a bad idea. He's been at 140 for a long time. Imagine the weight cut is probably getting a little bit tough. There's still a lot of good fights at 144, but 147's got a lot more. You can fight Devin Haney up there, Ryan Garcia. Talking about the super fights in America. There are those options. As for Shakur, he could stay at 140. He could also go back down to 135. In fact, he says he wants to go to 135. I would most like him to go down and unify with Raymond Murataya. I think he's now the number 2 man at 135 with Tank on. And I think that Shakur versus Murataya is a fantastic fight. Another one that Shakur definitely wins, but off a great performance, I would love to see Murataya get a shot at him. And that way, Shakur can become unified. He did call Conor Benn into the ring, and they had a little back and forth. Not much interest there, just because Shakur's way better than Conor Benn, and it doesn't make sense weight-wise. We don't know if Conor Benn's even going to be able to make 147. And Shakur coming up to 147 I don't think is a good idea just yet. It just doesn't really make sense. And him saying, I'm going to put the same rehydration clause on you, meaning that you're going to have to weigh in like at 157 day of the fight. I don't know if that's a good idea. I just don't see it happening. And it would be kind of fun because it'd be commercially a huge fight. And Conor Benn's a superstar, and everyone wants to fight him. But, yeah, I still don't think Conor Benn is that great. I think he could win a world title. That's possible if you fought someone like Mario Barrios or Rolly Romero. They had a little bit of a thing. He could beat those guys, but I don't see him doing anything to Shakur Stevenson or Devin Haney like he keeps on talking to. But, yeah, my picks for next are probably going to be Shakur versus Murataya. Teofimo could go in and fight like Brian Norman Jr. That's a top-ranked fight. If you just want to keep them both having big fights while they wait on their next title shot. Or you could just go right in with Devin Haney. I have no issue with that. But, yeah, Shakur now holds 2 titles in different divisions, which I don't know if there's anybody else. I don't think there is anyone else who currently does that. So, very impressive. Now, let's talk about this undercard. Keyshawn Davis looked pretty good. I don't think it was like his best performance, but this was definitely his best opponent, I think, maybe besides Baranchuk. And I thought that he largely dominated Jimmy Ortiz. I did think he looked really good, and it was definitely an important win for him, like emotionally and mentally. He was in a dark place after, missing weight and losing his title, and strong debut at 140, stopping Jermaine Ortiz with just like 10 seconds to go. He literally broke him. He broke his will, and that's obviously like just, is a huge win. It sounds bad to say it like that, but just mentally to be like, yeah, like, these guys like to shit talk. They definitely were shit talking. It was a great build up. It sucks for Jermaine Ortiz, but he'll bounce back. He always still gets big opportunities once he has, he had like 3 kind of meh fights since the Teofimo Lopez fight, and then he got this opportunity. But as for Keyshawn, dude, I would love if he just walked right into a world title fight. He also says he wants to go to welterweight pretty soon. Called out Lewis Crocker, called out Devin Haney on the mic. Look, I do love Devin Haney, Keyshawn Davis, but I don't think that Keyshawn should be in any rush to move up to welterweight. He was just at lightweight. He only had 1 title fight there. I would like him to go and try and win a title at 140. 140 is pretty booked up. But the one thing is that Shakur is likely to vacate that WBO title. I don't think he stays at 140. I think he goes back down to 135. And if so, I don't know where Keyshawn's ranked, but he was a former WBO champion. He would probably get next at that, likely against Alfredo Santiago. I believe he's ranked number 1, and that is a winnable fight for Keyshawn Davis. That's what I think he does. Waits until Shakur vacates, get yourself a second title at 140. If you really want to go up to welterweight, go for it, but I'd rather him stay at 140 because I think he's like a top 5 guy in that weight division now. Also in the card, Bruce Carrington knocking out Carlos Castro. It was a little bit competitive for a few rounds. I thought Castro was definitely doing good. He hit Bruce Carrington with some big shots, but Shushu, man, just in that 9th round, that was a fantastic knockout. That was one of the best knockouts of 2026 so far. And I know it's early. We've already had so many good knockouts, but I loved that. And I'm a big fan of Shushu, and he was very emotional afterwards. And look, he's now a world champion, not interim, not mandatory. He is a world champion for Brooklyn, Brownsville. I loved it so much. And look, he is not going to duck anyone. He wants unifications. He wants the big dogs. Look, dude, I would love if he could fight someone like Nick Ball, Rafael Espinoza, although that's a really tough fight. I would actually probably say you'd have to think Espinoza and Carrington, maybe the 2 best guys in this division, leaving out Angelo Leo, which it's hard to think about how good Angelo Leo is because he's had 2 fights and they're both competitive. Let me remind you that the Luis Alberto Lopez fight, he won that with a knockout. Before then, that was like 4 rounds apiece heading into that knockout round. And he's only fought once since then. That was a year and a half ago. So he's just so inactive. I want to see him fight soon. But I believe he's fighting Rais Salim next. But yeah, I don't know. But I would love to see if Shushu could unify, but also there's no rush to. He just won that title, and all these other featherweight champions have not been in any rush to unify. Nick Ball fights Brandon Figueroa this weekend. That's a pretty good fight. Maybe he gets the winner of that. I don't know. Ammo Williams, obviously, was meant to fight Carlos Adames since our last episode. Adames was hospitalized. Believably, it was something to do with the weight cut. We don't know that for a fact, but that's likely what happened. Hope he's okay, but 160 is just such a mess. We can't get any title fights going. We're supposed to have Janibek versus Lara in December, and then Janibek got popped, and I believe he's about to be vacated of both his titles. So it's just a mess of a division. I hope I do feel bad for Ammo. I hope he gets a shot soon, but I don't think he was saved because he does beat Wendy Toussaint with a very one-sided fight, but he didn't look great. And this is the second fight in a row where he doesn't look great after having a world-level opponent pull out on him. He was meant to fight Oliha in July for an eliminator, and then he doesn't look great in his fight against Vasquez. People are like, oh, he maybe would have lost that one. Here, I think that ammo probably would have gotten beaten up and maybe even stopped by Carlos Adames. So he got a little bit lucky. Jarrell Miller, oh my goodness. That fight was not that great. I actually thought Kingsley Ibe was winning the first 3 or 4 rounds, and then Miller, his gas tank just lasted longer. It definitely lasted longer than his toupee because the most viral moment of the event in the second round, you notice some of Ibe's shots, they're pushing Miller's hair back, and it's like, what is happening? And he's getting hit, and his hair piece, he's wearing a toupee. The man is bald, and it's flying all over the place. And I was just crying, laughing. I couldn't believe it. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen happen on boxing because I noticed it before the commentators did, and he just pushed back a little bit. And I was like, am I crazy? Or what is happening with his hair? Is he wearing a toupee? And then they noticed it too, and they're like, oh, my God. And, and then he owns it. Jarrell Miller's a super funny guy, and so I'm glad that he owned it because he's a great shit talker. You lose every fight for the next 10 years. You lose every argument because you just got outed as being bald and trying to hide it. Now, he's telling me, but he rips it off and throws it into the crowd, and it was super funny. And then he wins the fight, so fair play. Keeps on telling the story about how this week he had some shampoo, had bleach in it, and that removed his hair. And just on Wednesday he got this done. I don't believe that at all because it was such a perfect toupee job. It was not obviously very well done because it came off super early. I don't know why you would fight with the toupee, but it looked so good beforehand, and like the baldness around his head was so uniform that looked like it was genuinely how he was, how he had gotten that done a long time ago, and that was how he actually was balding. So I don't really believe his story, although it would have been hard for him to come up with it just on the fly while he's fighting, but it was hilarious. I loved it, and that was definitely the best moment of the card. And then before that, Ziad Almayouf has his first professional loss to Kevin Castillo. Great performance for Castillo. Got dropped in, I believe, the first or second round, and then comes back and wins the rest of the fight from the third round on. Honestly, kind of dominates Zizo. Look, I've always said that Zizo's very average, and his last few fights, he's come close to losing almost all of them. They've been draws or no contests. Like, he has gotten very lucky multiple times. I think he's actually had 2 fights where everyone thinks he loses, and it was a draw. And this time he didn't get lucky because – he's just – I know he's a Saudi Arabian boxer. That's why they put him on these cards, and he's a great spokesman for the sport in that country, but he's just not that good. Muhammad Al-Akel, I think, is way better. I don't know if he ever becomes a world champion, but Zizo is not very good at all. And he got kind of found out, but it was a good fight. All right, let's talk about UFC 325, Volkanovski, Lopez. Look, I don't want to shit on this too much, but it really does kind of frustrate you when Movsar was there, Lerone was there, and their fight just got announced. We'll talk about that in a minute, but they were both there waiting for that fight, for the title shot, and Diego Lopez gets it because he's more of a fan favorite, more exciting, even though he had just fought in Volk and lost to him in a pretty decisive fashion. This fight made no sense when it got announced, and then we get to it. It's like, all right, well, you know what? The first one was a banger. Let's see if this one is. Let's see if it's different. And it's not. It's less of a banger, and you see Diego Lopez is just kind of nervous when he's in the cage with Volk. He doesn't have a good game plan. He doesn't know how to attack him really, and Volk is just way better of a fighter. Like, it's just that simple. And it's just frustrating to sit there and watch and be like, why do this was kind of pointless. Why did we do this again? Because we already knew what was going to happen, and pretty much the exact same result happened. Like, you read out those scorecards, they're not much different than the first fight, and probably more lopsided this time. And it wasn't as good of a fight. I did give Diego 1 round. I gave him the second round. That was it. I thought Volk looked great. The longevity on that guy is insane. I love Volk. I love Diego, too. He broke both his feet, apparently. But just a waste of a title fight. And I really do feel bad for Movsar and Lerone because at least one of them deserved that shot more than Diego did. And I don't know. It's just weird. And now it's probably going to take Diego a long time to get back to that title level when, if he had gotten another win or two while Volk was fighting one of these other guys, maybe the rematch would have made more sense. But for right now, it just didn't. But anyways, excuse me, that undercard. Pretty good. Co-main event, BSD finishes Dan Hooker in the second round. He's on some run. That's 4 finishes in a row. I believe they were almost all against ranked opponents. He's honestly very close to a title shot. As for who's next for him, I think there's 2 options, and they're both top dogs. He can fight the winner of Oliveira and Holloway. Probably not for the BMF, but fight the winner, and then, that guy could be next for a title shot. Arman Tsarukyan is going to have to wait probably until the end of the year to get his next title shot. He's not going to want to sit there and just do RAF matches the whole time. He's going to want to fight, and I would love to see him fight BSD. I think that he beats BSD. But you know what? It gives BSD a really big opportunity. So I like that fight. I think that makes sense. Either of those options are great for me, but BSD definitely deserves a big opportunity because he's got to be in the upper echelon of the division now. I think Hooker was ranked number 6, I want to say. So BSD will probably inherit that ranking. And, yeah, he's very close to a big fight. Very, very close. Also on that card, you had Mauricio Hufi finish Rafael Fiziev. That guy is just so impressive, and I think we just all kind of forgot because, again, he went up against BSD, and BSD's on a run. But, yeah, it was a good fight. It was a good striking affair, and then out of nowhere, Hufi just finishes him, and I thought that he looked really good again. Another lightweight surging up the rankings. He'll get another big opportunity. He's much better with Team Volk, it seems. Taliesin Teixeira beating Tai Tuivasa. Not really much to talk about there. The heavyweight division is just such a mess. The fact that these guys are in the top 15 is insane. For Tai, I don't know where he goes from there. That's 6 losses in a row. It's probably time to hang him up, if I'm being honest. It's just, I don't know if there's really much left. And Taliesin Teixeira is not very good either. But, you know, only has the 1 loss, and I really don't know, dude. That was a bit hard to watch. Kulintsov killed, though. First round submission. He looked fantastic. Great prospect. Billy Alacana finishing Junior Taffa in the second round was crazy because Taffa had a fantastic start to the fight. And then and I was like, wow, Taffa's not, sucky anymore. And then out of nowhere just gets submitted. So good win for Alacana. Cam Rouston finishes Cody Brundage in round 2. That was good. Jacob Malkoun dominates Torres Finney. Torres Finney was very hyped up coming in at a boring debut, and now this, not great. Jonathan McAuliffe finishing Oban Elliott. That was surprising because Oban Elliott, again, came out really good and then got finished in the second round with a submission. It was like, wow, what's going on? And then Yizha Yizha lost to Khan Offaly. That was a close fight, but I had Yizha winning. A lot of weird stuff around the one. And then you had the road UFC fights, which were pretty good. Most notably, Kiichiro Nakamura got a third-round finish in his fight. A good come-from-behind victory. Yeah. So I enjoyed that UFC card. Now let's talk about some other boxing that we had going on. Xander Zayas beating Abass Baraou. I mean, unified at 23 years old. It's incredible. And he's in the best division of the sport. What's crazy is that he's not even one of the top 3 guys in that division. You got Fundora, you got Ortiz, and you got Ennis. I think they're all better than Zayas. But Zayas now has the WBO and WBA belts. And look, one of the judges gave it to Baraou 116-112, which I thought was ridiculous. I love Abass Baraou. He gave a good effort. But it was really just all Zayas until the last few rounds. Then it got competitive and trade with Baraou in that last round. That was a fantastic 12th round when he was way up on the scorecards. I had him winning the fight 117-111. I thought that for the first 10 rounds. I only gave Baraou 1 round. I gave him the last 2. But, dude, he was just so he was just better. He was just quicker. He was stronger. He was getting him to the punch faster. He was just simply better. And we knew that, but it's just really cool to see someone so young and so motivated and dedicated. And look, he doesn't sit there and say, yeah, I'll fight whoever. I'll fight my mandatory. No, he says, I saw Josh Kelly win today. Give me Josh Kelly. Give me Boots. Give me Fundora. Give me Virgil. He's calling out the big dogs. He wants to become undisputed, and I love seeing that in a young boxer. I'm a really huge fan of Xander Zayas. Just how the year he's had. I mean, if you go back to a year ago, he was about to fight Slava Spomer. And we knew he was close to a title shot, but didn't know how close. And just fast forward a year from now, he's now unified. Nobody would have thought that. And not even unified because he beat a unified champion. He picked up 2 belts in separate fights. Insane. On that undercard, we meant to have Rohan Polanco. He was not able to fight. He got ill, which was definitely unfortunate because I love him. I hope he's back out soon. Giovanni Santillon beat Courtney Pennington. Not a very good performance. Santillon, that's 2 back-to-back performances, which are not great from him. This was his true debut at 154, and he really didn't impress me. That's a tough division. He was 34. I didn't realize he was that, not that 34 years old, but it's older than I thought he was. Just really, he's kind of plateaued for me. Yuri Cedeno looked great against Antundi Michelle William. I thought he could have gotten a stoppage. He almost got him out of there in round 1, dropping him twice, and then coasted to a decision 100-88. I mean, he tried, but William is tough. He's never been stopped before. And 100-88 on all 3 cards is very impressive. Carlos De Leon and Juanita Lopez de Jesus, who's a big star in Puerto Rico. Those 2 prospects also got wins. Good card. but would have liked to see Polanco fight. Maybe a little bit more action on the undercard. In the UK, Josh Kelly beats Bakhram Murtazaliev. Fantastic fight. Really good. I had Kelly winning 114-112. I also would have been okay with the draw, 113-113. I thought that it was such a fun fight, and it was really surprising to see because I thought Bakhram was the boogeyman. And maybe I'm wrong because a lot of people are pointing out, like, yeah, if you had seen more than just the Tim Tszyu fight, and I got to be honest, that's the only fight I've seen Bakhram in, to my knowledge. Maybe I saw one earlier in his career, but the only fight I remember seeing is the Tim Tszyu fight, where he blew him out of the water, and Tim Tszyu was a top guy at that time. So to come in here, I was like, yeah, he's definitely going to beat Josh Kelly, but he's been out of the ring for a year and a half, and Josh Kelly is good, and he had a good game plan, and he outboxed him, and it got a little bit closer in the back half, don't get me wrong. You know, Kelly was coasting for a while, and then Bakhram started to catch up on him. That fourth round knockdown, it was a hard knockdown. That shocked me. He did get knocked down himself later, but that wasn't as more of a flash knockdown, you know. But yeah, very impressive from Josh Kelly. You know, 2 changes at 154 in the title picture. He's now IBF champion, which is insane. Lots of options for him. We know he's already signed on to fight Boots. Maybe he does that soon. I did see that Keyshawn was talking to Ben Whitaker, and Ben Whitaker seemed to say that he was going to be co-main event on a Boots fight in April in Atlanta. And I hope so, because I live near Atlanta, and oh my God, if we had Boots and Ben Whitaker, maybe in Boots versus Kelly or whoever, dude, that would be incredible. I would absolutely go, and that'd be sick. But that's just me getting excited. We'll see what actually happens. But Josh Kelly could fight Boots. He could fight Tim Tszyu even. That's something that some people said is possible. He's got a lot of options. I don't think he unifies next, but maybe they put him in Madrimov. I don't know. I don't know if Matchroom is going to put a lot into Josh Kelly. I think they'd rather have Boots winning that title. So we'll see what they do. Josh Padley, co-main event. Wow. I thought European level maybe a little bit of a step up. And look, Belmetti was not as good as we were hoping he was going to be, but stops him in the second round. Fantastic knockout. You know, from an electrician to European champion in a year, I'd love to see that kind of stuff, and good for him. Elif Nurturhan, look, she gets a dominant win against Taylor Jensen. At least I thought it was pretty dominant, but definitely seemed to kind of be a one-punch wonder. You know, like she does kind of seem to be like, wow, you take her the distance, and if you can just avoid her, you know, it's not that hard to get to the distance, just if you get hit. And she's kind of wailing big shots the whole time. And look, I still am a big fan of her. I love when she gets knockouts, but definitely made me second guess. If you put her in there with Caroline Dubois or Stephanie Hahn, maybe she doesn't beat them. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully she gets those unifications. As for the rest of that card, Leo Tang finally got taken out of the first round, finishes fighting the third round. Very good heavyweight prospect, and I believe he's going to be out on February 21st on the Wood Warrington card, so that's good. Josh Blenkiron, I think it was a North Area title fight. I had him win that 97-92. That was a pretty fun fight, and I thought that he looked very good. And then Kieran McDonald had his pro debut against a guy who has lost his last 28 fights in a row since winning his debut. And, yeah, that definitely got torn apart on Twitter. People were like, oh, wow, like, this is boxing. And it's like, yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, I mean, like, you see that stuff all the time. But it's just when it goes viral for somebody noticing and pointing it out, it definitely is crazy. Other than that, though, this week and a lot of other good stuff. Zuffa Boxing 2. Last night, Jose Valenzuela beating Diego Torres. Look, I do think that Valenzuela definitely won that fight. I had him winning 97-93. Great performance. But I don't think that it was anywhere near as dominant as they were trying to sell you in those first 4 rounds. Skipper Kelp had him winning every single round of the fight. When they showed the 40-36 at the beginning, I was like, oh, come on. Because I had Torres up 39-37 at that point. I gave Torres round 1, 3, and 4, and then I didn't have him any winning yards for the rest of the fight. I thought round 1, Torres was hitting Valenzuela with a ton of big shots, and Valenzuela was not reacting well to them. And I was like, oh, God, this is not good at all. And then the fight kept on going, and Valenzuela just figured him out and just outboxed him. You know, he has way more experience at a much higher level. He's just much more of a polished boxer. And for the rest of that fight, it was pretty smooth sailing for Valenzuela. But early on, Torres was dominant, if not winning the early rounds. So, I don't know. Fight me. Co-main event, Sergey Boachuk getting a win over Radza Butayev. Look, I feel bad for Butayev. I scored it a draw. I thought Butayev could have gotten the win more likely than Boachuk. I thought he definitely won the first half of the fight. And then Boachuk did clear up the rest of the fight because Butayev did get tired. So I feel bad for Butayev. I hope he still gets another opportunity at Zuffa because that was a great performance from him. As it was from Boachuk, it was a really fun fight. 10 rounds of just pure action. That's really every fight on this card. They were all good. The one before that, comeback of the year potentially, Radifaj Kalajic was down 6-0, got dropped twice in the first few rounds against Alexander Gvozdyk. It was not looking good for him. And then out of nowhere, knocks Gvozdyk out. I could not believe it. It drops him twice and then finishes it. Gvozdyk had only ever lost to Beterbiev and Benavidez. Not even Benavidez could stop him. I could not believe that. Like, Kalajic is probably not going to be top 10 ranked by the Ring Magazine. I also like that Zuffa included the Ring ranking. I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, what a comeback win for Kalajic. Very, very impressive. That was sick. Also on the card, Jalil Hackett getting a competitive decision win over Roberto Cruz. He definitely deserved it. I had him winning 97-93. Could have even been closer. But, yeah, he's back to winning ways. And I hope that, I don't know. I feel like he's kind of gotten screwed over in the last year or two. So I hope that things go his way with Zuffa. Justin Valoria beats Oscar Perez in a fantastic 8-round competitive fight. Both were undefeated. Both prospects and Valoria. I did think he would get the better, and he did. Just 77-75 for me. Fantastic fight. I love that. These are the kind of fights Zuffa needs to be doing. Timoni Kato Kane, pretty dominant over an undefeated guy who had never even been the distance, and Christian Morales. Damazion Van Hooter and Jamar Talley both had great finishes in their fights. Again, those are a little bit more lopsided, more typical boxing prospect fights, but great night of action. The pacing was much better. I really had a good time with it. We also had William Skoll getting knocked out in the final round against Jacob Bank. Loses every round of that fight. Gets dropped twice in the 6th round. I mean, not even Canelo could stop him. And this is a narrative that almost all of Canelo's last few opponents have been stopped in, like, their next or second to next fight after. So, I don't want to shit on Canelo, and it doesn't really matter because different fights, different styles. But, yeah, that's definitely not great for his power because he hasn't stopped anyone in years, and everybody else gets knocked out right after. But, man, William Skoll looked terrible. And I thought he was actually competitive in a lot of the rounds with Canelo, even if he did just run. But it could have won him some rounds. I don't know. But, yeah, Dina Thorslund had a win on that card. Oliver Zarin did, although he totally just punched his opponent in the back of the head, and they scored it a knockout, but whatever. In the UK as well, Fran Hennessy's first main event. Controversial win over Ellie Boutel. I wasn't really watching. I gave her most of the rounds. And then I realized, I'm apparently very wrong. I ended up scoring at 96-94, as I definitely think that Boutel had a better second half. Most people think Boutel won the fight. She was never going to win that one, on the scorecard just because it was Hennessy's backyard more so, and it was going to be a long night for her to be able to win it on the cards. But, yeah, definitely not Hennessy's best performance, and throws into question, is she, should she be calling out Trinica Johnson for that bantamweight title fight? No, she should not. She should wait a little bit more before she tries and calls out, the undisputed champion because she needs more time to develop, clearly. Other than that, Greatest Krause, fantastic second-round stoppage against Boris Crichton. That guy is a true prospect. I love him. He looked great. I know that Joel Kadua got a finish on the undercard. I wish I could have seen it, but for some reason, the DAZN broadcast started an hour and a half after the BBC one, and we just didn't get to see the early fight, so I don't know. Pro Box TV, Brian Flores beats Starling Castillo in a pretty dominant performance. Thought that was a good fight. Rene Palacios upsets Suleiman Sagawa. I thought it was close. I had scored it a draw. Again, could have gone either way, but Palacios gets it done. He remains undefeated. I'm not really mad at it. If I had to choose anyone to win, it would be Palacios. But yeah, good fight there. Francois Scarborough Jr., nice win for him. Jordan White, great comeback win. The only issue is that all these went the distance, really. Thani J. Teasley upset Elijah Flores. He remains undefeated. Flores' first loss. I had Flores winning, but, it was close. And then some good fights on the undercard, most notably Benjamin Johnson and David Whitmire got stoppages. But, good pro box show. And there was also an IBA card. Not too much to say about it. Barely any finishes besides David Surov, who made his pro debut. So he's definitely a heavyweight to watch. Heavyweight main event, Khalidov beat Lardouet. Again, not much to say. I do like IBA, just barely any knockouts on their cards. It's hard to watch because a lot of fights are very boring with the amateur style. But that's all the fights that happened this weekend. One thing I forgot to mention, at the UFC, Aaron Tao, who's going to be on one of the Road to UFC fights. His fight got called off because he tried to pull the old DC towel trick where he rests his hands on the towel while weighing in. Weighed in at 122.5, then they re-weighed him, and weighed in at 129 pounds. He cut off 6.5 pounds just by doing that. And then his fight gets canceled. Pretty messed up he tried to do that, but it was very funny. Definitely went viral, but yeah, that was wild. All right, we got a lot of news. We're going to try and get through it quickly because it's already being long because there's just so much happened this weekend. But let's talk about it. Announced, Deontay Wilder, Derek Chisora. We knew it was coming. April 4th, O2 Arena on DAZN, not Sky Sports. It's going to be a pay-per-view. Look, this is a big fight. I didn't realize this was also Wilder's 50th fight, so they're marketing it as 100 because it's the 50th for both of them, even though combined it would really only be 99. But that's beside the point. I'm excited. I think it's a great fight. It's a great retirement fight for both. Chisora says it will be his last fight, and I kind of do believe him. And he says it's also going to be Wilder's because he's going to retire him, and I love to hear that. They had their face-off in New York today. Looks cool. It's going to be a co-promotion between Queensberry and MF Pro. This is Misfits Pro's first event, and it seems like they are really going big. I thought it was just going to be a small stuff, Vidal Riley headlining like a 2,000-seat arena in the UK. No, they're going O2 pay-per-view with a heavyweight matchup. I love it. Vidal Riley will be co-main event. We know that. I expect to see a lot of other Misfits and Queensberry guys on the undercard. Also announced today, Sebastian Fundora, Keith Thurman, March 28th in Las Vegas on pay-per-view. Look, I'm excited for this fight to be done and out of the way so Fundora can get back to hopefully defending against real contenders or unifying because his last few opponents have not been great. Besides, even the Tim Tszyu rematch was a little bit unnecessary. The Booker fight was dumb. And now Keith Thurman. Thurman has not fought anyone real in the past 5 years. So it's just like, or 4 years maybe, I don't know. So it's just like, why is he getting a shot? It's frustrating. I thought the first time around the fight got canceled. This was a sign, and they keep on going back to it. Regardless, though, it's a PBC card, so I expect it'll be very good pay-per-view, as it should be. It'll be fun fights, and maybe Fundora Thurman can be a good watch. I don't know. I'll stay optimistic. Shavkat was seen in a knee brace and crutches, and it was confirmed that he's got injured again with his knee, and he'll be out for another 9 to 10 months. So this guy's going to be out of the cage for over 2 years. Last fought in December 2024. He will not be returning until 2027, likely. Maybe in the 2026, but I really strongly doubt it. At this point, he's becoming a what-if fighter. He's undefeated almost every win by finish except for his last one. It looks like he was a shoo-in to be the next welterweight champion. And now the division has moved on so much. And it's just like, is he ever going to be able to fight again? Like, what the heck? So, 100%, we don't need to be talking about him as the next title contender. Now it's down to Ian Gary and Micah Morales, although they'll probably give it to Kamaru Usman. But once Shavkat comes back, he should not get a title shot. He's going to have to re-earn it. I was already thinking he'd have to re-earn it. But he could walk in again and I wouldn't have been mad. But now he really needs to he really needs to re-earn it because he only had one fight in 2024 and it was the end of the year. So it's going to end up being one fight in 3 years. Not really much qualifying for a title shot. Movsar versus Lerone has been confirmed to headline UFC London on March 21st. But look, this is a great fight. This is a number one contender fight. Has to be, right? Unless they give it to John Silver for some dumb stuff. But winner of this should get Volkanovski for that featherweight belt. The card's been announced. It's pretty good. MVP is on it, but he's not co-main event, which is very, very weird. Instead, he's going to be fighting Sam Patterson, which is also just a weird matchup, not even ranked, which I feel like he deserves a ranked opponent. Co-main event is going to be Luke Riley, Michael Aswell. As of right now, it could change, but as of right now, that's what it's looking like. Also on the card, you're going to have Roman Dolidze returning, defending his ranking against Christian Leroy Duncan. So that's kind of a fun matchup. Wasn't really expecting it. Iwo Baranovsky, Austin Lane should be a fun one. Nathaniel Wood is back against Losane Ketia, Mason Jones, Axel Sola, a lot of other stuff. Mick Parkin is a ranked heavyweight. He's going to be fighting Mario Pinto. It should be a pretty fun night. I think it's a pretty good fight night by the looks of it. A lot of Europeans on it, of course. But yeah, looking forward to that on March 21st. Turki Al-Sheikh has said that he wants to have Oleksandr Usyk fight Rico Verhoeven. I don't hate it. I think Rico could either go to the UFC and almost immediately get a title shot or go to boxing and almost immediately get a title shot. We know they wanted to do Rico versus AJ. AJ's had a little bit too many crossover fights. We know Usyk kind of wants a different approach. He doesn't want to fight Wardley or Cabello. Wanted to fight Wilder, maybe even Rico. I don't hate it. I would prefer for Usyk fought Wardley or Cabello, somebody who's actually a top boxer and deserves the shot more, but If it is Rico, who cares? The guy's like the GOAT. He's allowed to have a different kind of fight. It's whatever. I do want to see Rico make his debut in boxing before he goes to UFC, though, because it'd be kind of fun. Also announced for the same day as Wilder Chisora, Lauren Price for Stephanie Aquino. Not a bad fight. For right now, we'll take this. It is a good matchup. I think she's undefeated as well. No objections to it. Price gets to unify in Wales, or headline in Wales. It's a good fight. Diego Pacheco is pulled out of the purse bids against Hamza Shiraz. Very, very disappointed. Not super surprised, but also a little bit because it seemed like they were really heading towards that direction. I think they just decided, we're not ready. We're not going to jump into this. But WBO president saying, Shiraz is going to be fighting Alam Bejic for the title in May in Manchester. Seems like Queensberry's already got a plan. I'm a little bit disappointed in that opponent choice. I don't know who Bejic is, but you got Jacob Bank right there who just knocked out for William Skull, and he's ranked higher than Bejic is. That makes way more sense to me, but it is what it is. At least Shiraz is going to get to fight for the title. But Pacheco and Eddie Hearn are definitely have to find a way to, spin that story because it doesn't look great for him right now. What else? WBO president also confirmed a deal is in place for Callum Smith, Dave Morrell. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm glad to hear that because we really need to, have a fight in place. For those two, we've been waiting so long to get the deal agreed, but it's good that it finally is happening because that is a great fight and it needs to happen for the division. I expect it to be in Saudi soon. Devin Haney and his team got into a fight with Tiger Johnson at the weigh-in. Not really much to say. Just disappointing. I feel like Bill Haney, everywhere he goes, chaos follows. But the scrap kept on going on and on, like in different parts of the building you were seeing. So just insane. This is what happens in boxing. It's just it's a shame because it's embarrassing and it's stupid. But Turbiev and Bivol apparently are likely to fight on the same card in May before a trilogy. I don't understand why we can't go straight into a trilogy. I know they've both been out of the ring for a year. Not to either's choosing. Bivol had surgery. Then he was going to fight February, then March or April, and now May against Eifert in a title defense. But Turbiev, I don't know. He's meant to fight Nicholson in November. And then that fight didn't happen for no reason. We weren't told. So hopefully he gets a good opponent in May, and hopefully that's a big card. But we need to see that trilogy this year. In Keyshawn's little talk with Ben Whitaker, Whitaker asked him, like, hey, you going to come over to match him? And he's like, might as well. Nobody's happy with Top Rank right now, and I can't really blame him. So I would love if Keyshawn went to match him. I think that's a good place for him, but we'll see. Maybe he'll stick it out with Top Rank. Brian Ortega confirmed I don't know if he confirmed it. It was announced that he's out of his fight with Renato Moicano on March 7th. Definitely disappointing. He's just always getting injured or losing. So, or missing weight. I don't know. It's kind of a mess, but I was excited for that fight. It didn't make a lot of sense, but I was pretty certain it was going to be a fun watch. I believe they're going to have Ribovic step in to fight Moicano, which that one will certainly be violent, so I'm down for it. So this is very recent as I'm seeing it right now on Twitter. Apparently, Zuffa Boxing is planning to be involved with AJ versus Fury later this year. That is the plan, and that Zuffa would be the ones behind it. Dana White promoting, similar to how he did Canelo Crawford. Look, that kind of makes sense. I'm not surprised. They wanted to be on Netflix, and if so, that makes sense. But that was a very different time last time. This time, I don't know if Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren are going to allow Dana White to be the one to promote it, especially on Zuffa. And I also don't know if Paramount Plus are going to be thrilled about Dana going on to Netflix. There's also a saying here from Boxing Scene, who's great, that Zuffa Boxing is planning a major Mexican Independence Weekend card in the U.S. to complement Canelo's return earlier that day on a card in Saudi. I would expect that the Canelo fight in Saudi is just going to be on U.S. time. It'd be weird if they would have two events that same day, kind of coordinated. But who knows? Maybe. I don't really believe Zuffa and Major yet. Maybe the Ring Magazine with Zuffa with Dana White there, but not really Zuffa itself. So we'll see. It's going to change a lot this year. But if Dana White was involved with AJ Fury, that would be insane. Because I really do feel like that should be Matchroom and Queensberry promoting it, not Dana White, who's not involved with either of those guys. But whatever. Otherwise, Zuffa Boxing, the third main event, F.A. Jog by Charles Martin, we knew was happening. It's now been announced for Sunday, February 15th, not February 14th, not Valentine's Day. So that's a win. I don't know if I'm going to love these Sunday cards because they are on Sunday nights, but I don't hate it yet. I was also confirmed Zuffa 4, Chapataya will be returned on March 8th. We knew that. No opponent yet. I did just see that Brandon Glanton is apparently in talks to be that guy, and I kind of don't hate that. I would prefer if Opataya fought like Mikhailian, but because we know he's likely not going to be a title fight, If Brandon Glanton's the best guy they can do, that's fine. He's still a top 10, top 15 guy in the division. Much better than the guys Opetaia fought last year. All right, let's talk about these Ring Magazine awards and the winners of them. So, of course, Male Fighter of the Year, no shock, Terrence Crawford. He absolutely deserved it. I know some people wanted Inoue because Inoue had the 4 fights this year. That's true, but Inoue was not as active or was not fighting as much competition. I think Crawford deserves it more. Plus, it's his last year. You have to give it to him. Mizuki Haruta wins Women's Fighter of the Year. I was a bit surprised. I would have given it to Tarhan probably, but she wasn't nominated. Then I would have given it to Michaela Mayer, but because she had 2 wins in different divisions, title-wise. But Haruta had 4 title defenses this year, which is more than anyone else. So, but not here, so I don't know. But I am happy for Haruta. She's a sweetheart. Brian Norman Jr., knockout of the year. No debate about it. Eubank Ben getting fight of the year. Very happy about because they deserved it the most. Larry Merchant gets Lifetime Achievement Award. I love that. Good for him. He looked old, but that was cool they gave it to him because he was something else. They were showing his highlights on the mic, and it was great. Shingo Inoue wins Trainer of the Year. I mean, look, it probably would be Robert Garcia, but he won it last year. I had Shingo Inoue winning it because he doesn't get enough credit for the work he does for his sons, and definitely was great. Emiliano Vargas winning Prospect of the Year. Loved that. I really had no complaints for a lot of these awards. Armando Resendiz getting Upset of the Year. Thought they were going to give it to Rolly, but I'm glad because I thought Resendiz was more impressive to do that to Caleb Plant because nobody at all was expecting him to do that. He was a huge underdog. And then Round of the Year goes to Seiya Tsutsumi, Daigo Higa. Again, I'm surprised they didn't give it to a Ring Magazine card, but I'm glad that they didn't because, this one deserved it more. And both men were downed in that fight, and they deserve to win it. So, overall, great picks, great wins for all the awards, and, no favoritism really showed this year like I kind of expected. Last minute addition to Saturday's Apex card, Jailton Almeida will be fighting Rizvan Kuniev, who I believe is unranked when Almeida's like 6th ranked. So definitely a bit of a risky matchmaking for him, but I don't think the UFC's overly happy with his last fight. So this is what it is. But, that Apex card, I think it's going to be a low-key banger. It's got a lot of good fights on it. I'm excited. UFC Macau is going to be confirmed for May 30th. I believe Road to UFC was also part of that, but I don't really care about that. But yeah, fight night in Macau, May 30th. Looking forward to that. Hopefully we see the return of Song Yadong. We'll see Mingying Zhang maybe. We'll see. And then last but not least, George Liddard apparently is set to defend his British title against Tyler Denny, likely on March 7th, as we know the Matchroom is planning a show for them. I really like that matchmaking. It's a bit of a step up for Denny, or for Liddard, but definitely a winnable fight for him. I think he beats Denny. I have no complaints. I like that fight a lot. Why not? Let's do it. But that is all I've got for today. I will go ahead and just preview the Thursday night card we have this week because I think I'll probably do another episode on Friday, not Thursday. But, Thursday night, Albert Ramirez makes the first events of his WBA interim light heavyweight championship against Lerone Richards. I like Lerone Richards, but I don't understand at all why he's getting the shot. WBA makes no sense. He got stopped a year and a half ago by Steve Woodall in a big upset at 168. He had one fight and a 6-round journeyman win last year in which he weighed at 181 pounds for. So now he's back and he's fighting at 175, which is okay, but against Ramirez, I expect Ramirez to beat him and likely stop him inside the first 6 to 9 rounds. I don't love that matchmaking. Hopefully Ramirez can get a big fight on a Saudi card this year or something because he deserves a title shot soon. Once Beterbiev and Bivol get their trilogy out of the way, Benavidez, I don't know if he'll come back down to 175. Smith Morrell definitely is next, and then I think it's Ramirez. Also on that card, Dimitri Asanow is back. Mehmet Unal is back. He's actually fighting an undefeated opponent in Alton Zogaj. Thomas Shabbat is back. First fight since his first loss, and he's in a 10-rounder. But seems to be a good opponent. I don't know. I love the Eye of the Tiger shows. Looking forward to that. Great weekend ahead of us. Friday, Medina versus Curiel. Title fight. Nick Ball, Brandon Figueroa on Saturday. UFC Apex. Knuckle Mania. PFL Dubai. It's going to be a great weekend. Thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy the week. I'll touch base on Friday probably. But thank you all so much for listening, and peace out.